Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to the 14 Pillars, the Ahlul Bayt alayhum assalam for everyone, our Muharram special here on Imam Hussein TV, where today we're discussing the very important topic of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's revolution. My name is Sayyida Mahdiya and I'm joined by Sister Dua. Sister, Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sister, thank you so much once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure to be on set with you as we continue our discussion on Imam Hussein alayhi salam, this 14 Pillars Muharram special. Now, if we look at the title, Imam Hussein's Revolution, it's very important to discuss. We've spoken about the merits of visiting his holy ziyarat, his holy shrine. We've spoken about the merits of holding majalises and for crying and lamenting and weeping for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But it's also very important to discuss and look upon why did the actual events of Ashura take place. Now, if we look in traditions and narrations, and scholars often say that the level of Imam Hussein's revolution can be split into three levels. Now, Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself has said, I seek to enjoin what is good and forbid what is evil, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, and follow the traditions of my grandfather and my father. So that one can say is the first level of Imam Hussein's mission, his revolution. The second thing one can say is when Muawiyah passed away, a letter was sent to Imam Hussein alayhi salam asking him to pledge allegiance to Yazid. Of course, we know Imam Hussein would never do this, and he did not do this. And also we know that when Yazid came into power, he had Ibn Ziyad as his tyrant ruler, as his ambassador of Basra. Now, the Kufans were under very tyrant rule from Ibn Ziyad, and they were being oppressed by him. So narrations tell us that more than 12,000 letters reached Imam Hussein alayhi salam, begging him, pleading him to travel to Kufa to help him, to relieve them from the tyrant ruler. Now, those letters, some of those letters stated how they would help Imam Hussein in an uprising. Those letters Imam Hussein ignored. But the letters that stated that Imam Hussein is a rightful Imam, they are under oppression, they need the help, they are seeking for their Imam, those letters Imam Hussein could not ignore. Which is why we know history tells us that he sent his loyal brother, his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil, to Kufa to see what was happening and whether this was actually real or not. We know, of course, that then the shahadat of Muslim ibn Aqil and Hani ibn Urwa took place, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam, as he was traveling to Kufa, heard of the shahadat, which of course saddened him dearly. Now we look at these three levels. We look at how he refused to pay allegiance to Yazid, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, and the letters from the Kufans begging him to come, which of course we know then they abandoned them. They abandoned Muslim ibn Aqil because of the threat that Yazid had placed upon them. So let's start off today's topic of discussion, of today's topic of conversation, by looking at what was the reason of Imam Hussein's revolution. And Imam Hussein himself has said, before we come on to this question, he says, I look upon death as felicity and regard life in the shadows of the oppressors as nothing but unhappiness. It is better to die with honor than to live in shame. So we look at what was the actual reason for Imam Hussein's revolution and what can we learn from his rise in this holy month of Muharram.
You know, it's very important as a believer and as a follower of Ahlul Bayt and as a lover of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to understand that in this life we always, once we take, we have to give back. We have to ask ourselves that how has Imam Hussein alayhi salam has an impact in our lives, in our mind, in our work ethics, in our stance. What did Imam Hussein alayhi salam uprise for? What has he presented? And what should we present to Imam Hussein alayhi salam? Now, there are several of reasons why Imam Hussein alayhi salam uprised. And the main reason, there are matters that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has kept hidden. Secrets behind the imamah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And there are secrets behind the divine project and the divine mission of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his uprising. But from what we know from the narrations, from ahadith and from Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam, that the first thing that Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood up for was humanity, to free us from being slaves towards our desires, towards anyone, and humiliating ourselves to anyone other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, not to be slaves towards our desires, our lusts, what we want, or to the shaitan, to the devil, and not to humiliate ourselves. And this is what he said on the day of Ashura. إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم فيا سيوف خذيني. If the religion of Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, would not be practiced, and you would want to remain as slaves and humiliate yourselves to the devils and to the shaitan, then oh, you swords, come take me. And this is the first thing that Imam Hussein alayhi salam has taught us, especially when we gather in the month of Muharram. We realize that living life with freedom and not humiliating ourselves towards our desires and the shaitan, or dying, is a lot honorable than living life in humiliation. And this is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam has taught us. Now, if you come to the human being, as humans, you know, we have two identities. The first identity is the identity of your physical body. And this identity, we share it with everyone around the world, with those who are believers and those who are non-believers, those who are Muslims and non-Muslims, those who are followers of Ahlul Bayt and not. And that physical identity is when you sleep, you eat, you drink, and you have desires, human desires. And so this is something that we share. The second identity is the identity of your soul, your ruh, spiritual identity. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and this identity is from ethics and morals. It's controlled by ethics and morals. And this is the dividing line between humans and beasts and animals. Because the animals as well, they eat, they drink, they sleep, and they have desires. But we have this spiritual soul. And, you know, we feel that on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave light to that soul. And he gave life to that soul. If you look around the world today, why is there wars around the world? Why is a strong country harming a weak country and controlling it? Why is the rich harming the poor? Why is there someone who's physical strong controlling the weak? What's going on around the world? What do the enemies of Ahlul Bayt want from us? And you would realize that they want to strip us from this identity of our soul. You know, if you look around the world today, whether it's media, whether it's advertising, all they want you to think about is food. You know, the advertising on YouTube and platforms on social media, where you go around, you see plenty of restaurants, plenty of different recipes, you know, in every block around the area that you're living in or you're walking in, there's so many restaurants, thousands of restaurants. You open the television show, so many food, you know, food recipes and cooking. And it's like, is that what we should think of? Just what we eat and trying new recipes and cooking new food? Is that what our youth should think of? Is that what we as human beings should always think of? So they want us to feel like that the most important thing for humans is to eat. And then the next thing is that they control us by brand, by our desires. Every day there's a new model. You buy a car, there's a new brand, there's a different model. There's plenty of new different cars. You know, what car do you drive? What clothing do you have? With our clothing, we're controlled. How are we controlled? We're controlled by there's new trends. If you buy a new outfit, there's some new trend coming out, a new style. This is old. And if you keep updating your phone, you're going to have to keep updating it because it's always going to be a new phone that's updated. So you feel like the world is making us think of our desires, our shahawat, what we like, and they're able to control us by that. You know, every time they want you to change the way you dress, they create a new style, you know, new haircut style, everything. And, you know, for example, right now it's on the rise of, you know, injections on your face and looking different and surgeries. And this is what people are thinking of. This is what they want us to think of, to be like beasts, to be like animals, just to think of our desires, eating, you know, what we enjoy doing, dressing. And it's like they want to strip us from this spiritual identity, from the morals and the ethics, so we can become like animals and beasts. And this is why what's happening in the education system, it's all about what Qawm Lut has, you know, performed, because they want us to be slaves in the modern slavery towards what? Towards the shaitan, the devil, and towards our shahawat, our lusts and our needs. And once we are stripped from that soul, the identity of our soul, our spiritual soul, then we become like animals, we become like beasts. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, during the days of Muharram and Ashura, even if we're busy with our life and our jobs and making money and following trends, and we feel that we don't have a spiritual soul, once we sit in these majalis, it's like he blows in that soul. He brings life to it. We understand that we are not animals. We're human beings. He stood for humanity. We cannot be slaves to our desires, our shahawat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he puts something that's haram for a reason, why? Is so that we are human. This is the only thing that differentiates us from the animals. Now, if you go back to the day of Ashura and what made Imam Hussein alayhi salam stand was because Yazid ibn Muawiyah, he was performing inhumanity and he was acting like he was not human. For example, if you read in the Qala al-Baladhari, a narration by him, he says that Muawiyah, even before he dies, he sent a letter, a written letter to Ziyad. Ziyad, he's one of the political men of Bani Umayyah. And he's a senior man, he's well known, and he knows the ins and the outs of Bani Umayyah's political. So when he received that letter from Muawiyah, that come and let's gather the Muslimin and pledge allegiance to whom? To Yazid. Ziyad was very smart. He didn't want to write a letter because if he writes that letter back, this secret will be exposed if it would be caught. So what he did is he got a man who he trusts and he said to him, إني أريد أن أأتمنك على سر لم أأتمن عليه بطون الصحائف. I'm going to give you a secret, and this secret I do not trust anybody other than you. And this secret is for you to go tell Muawiyah that I've received your letter. And that Yazid, he is an alcoholic. He wakes up the morning and he drinks. And he spends his evenings as being drunk. Then he wakes up the next morning again and he drinks. And in the evening he's drunk. Then he told him, and he dances. He dances on drums and he dances with the dancers. And then he said to him, and he also does what Qawm Lut does. He performs that act. And he brings, the narration says he brings animals like roosters and he hunts for, dogs, and he'll bring plenty of animals and monkeys and he'll put them in an area and he'll agitate them. And they'll start to like rip each other and bite each other and harm each other, and they'll perform bad acts with each other, the narration says. And then he told him that this man, he also wears al-musabbagh. Al-musabbagh is basically either a clothing, a garment that's dyed with an inappropriate color. There are colors that are inappropriate because back in the days, they even wore clothing that were dyed. But for example, today you'll have like a royal family. There are things that they cannot dress, things that do not suit them. Today, if you see a scholar and you see them wearing an inappropriate color, it just shocks you, like this color is inappropriate. So he says that Yazid, he dresses these kind of clothing, inappropriate clothing with different colors. Or the narration says al-musabbagh could mean that he does baptism, what Christianities do. So they'll dye themselves with water, that's yellow water. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers them in the Holy Quran. He says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنَ مِنَ اللَّهِ صِبْغَةً. Who's better in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in ordaining a way? So he was telling him that this is what Yazid does. And he does in public, because Muawiyah himself, he was immoral as well, but he wouldn't do it in the public eye. Muawiyah would drink, but he wouldn't do it in the public eye. But Yazid, the narration says, he's the first one, man adhara shirb al-khamar. He's the first one who began to drink in the public eye in front of the Muslims. Then he said to him, we cannot gather the Muslims to pledge allegiance to Yazid in front of Hussein ibn Ali, because this is Yazid. So he sent him a message to tell him that this is Yazid ibn Muawiyah. We cannot gather the Muslims around the world to pledge allegiance in front of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So this is why Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he uprised. Because he said, فَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةِ بِرَاعًا مِثْلِ يَزِيد. Islam will be afflicted if it has a master and a caliphate like Yazid, someone who's drunk, someone who performs the acts of inhumanity. And so we understand that the first thing Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood for is humanity. He wants to free us and liberate us from falling through the lusts of our desires and the shaitan and humiliating yourself other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when you want to humiliate yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is when there's something haram that Allah says, this is for your dignity. This is for you as a human being. That's why it's haram. When you don't do it, it becomes humiliation towards whom? Towards Allah. So Allah says, don't humiliate yourself towards the devil, towards the shaitan, towards any tyrant. And if Yazid was going to become the government and the caliphate of the Muslimin, and this is what we see around the world today. Who's controlling the world today? People who are like Yazid. They want to promote everything that Yazid had promoted. Today, if you see someone speaking, with wisdom and intellect and teaching people about humanity, they're attacked. But those who are musicians and drunk and clubs and performing education that makes you obey the shaitan, for example, that's approved. And this is why Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood. And this reminds us every year in the month of Muharram that he stood for humanity. We must give victory to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and have humanity, especially what's going around the world and what we're experiencing. Imam Hussein brings light and life back to this spiritual soul.
Absolutely, and it just goes back to the original point that we said, Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, coming away from the bad evil, which was Yazid, which is why Imam Hussein, like you rightfully said, had to save humanity. There was no allegiance paid to Yazid, and he did what he did. His rise, his mission, his revolution was for us, not just for us Shias, not just for the Muslims, but for whole of mankind, for the time after it happened and even 1400 years after, so that we can realize what is good and what is right and what is evil and what is wrong, and we all stay away from that and we teach our children. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he was leaving Medina, he left his will, he left his possessions, and he left a small note with Muhammad bin Hanafiya. And in that note it said, I did not set out driven by arrogance or recklessness or a desire for spreading corruption or injustice. All what I am intent on seeking is reform for the community and the good of my grandfather. And again, it comes back to the original point of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. And we know that Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood for all of us, stood for humanity. And on the night of Ashura, when he said to his loyal companions, when he said to his relatives in the darkness of the night, he gave them the will to leave. He told them that tomorrow is a day that I will be killed, and along with me, you will all be killed. And he said that it is only my blood that they are looking for. It is only my blood that they want to spill. You are free. But no one left. Even in the darkness of the night, no one left, which just shows loyalty and companionship from his companions and his relatives. But it also shows love from Imam Hussein alayhi salam towards his companions and his relatives. On the day of Ashura, the events leading before Ashura and the events after Ashura is a full of sacrifice, is full of complete submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whichever event you look at, you can see tragedy and tests and tribulations and trials. I mean, just look at that infant, Hazrat Ali Asghar alayhi salam, that 6-month-old infant, when Imam Hussein alayhi salam presented the youngest martyr on the day of Ashura to the army of Yazid. And he said, if you do not want to quench my thirst, quench the thirst of my young infant. And as he held Hazrat Ali Asghar up to the army, we know that the army was so callous, was so evil, that even his thirst was quenched with a 3-pronged arrow. And even his pure body was not spared, as after Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Bibi Rabab buried his pure body in the ground, his body was dug out with a spear. Now this is something that no parent, the loss of a child is something that no parent should ever have to go through, especially this test, especially this trial, especially the way that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had to lose his 6-month-old infant in his arms. Now we look at this test, we look at this trial, and we look at what Imam Hussein alayhi salam went through, there is no tragedy greater than what befell upon Imam and his family. There is no greater than the day of Ashura. So we look upon what we are going through and we gain and seek inspiration from Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What he stood for the whole of the world, for humanity, so that we can fight our inner soul and inner nafs and do the jihad of our own inner self. So now my next question to you, dear sister, as we look at everything that Imam Hussein stood for and everything that he went for, how can we gain inspiration from Imam Hussein alayhi salam to better ourselves in this holy month of Muharram?
You know, if you read in the visitation for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it says, you know, بذل مهجته فيك ليستنقذ عبادك من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة. بذل مهجته فيك means he devoted his muhja. The muhja is the dam al-qalb, the blood of the heart. When someone's wounded and their blood drains, the blood drains from every organ. The last organ that will drain blood is the blood of the heart. And that's the pure blood. In the visitation of Imam Hussein, our Imam says that Imam Hussein بذل مهجته فيك. He devoted the blood of the heart for you. For what? ليستنقذ. That lamb is the lamb of purpose. So what was the purpose that Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood for? ليستنقذ عبادك من الجهالة. To rescue your servants, O Allah, from ignorance. وحيرة الضلالة. Hayra is, misconfusion. الضلالة is misguidance. So being confused and being misguided. And this is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he stood for the first thing we understand is to take us out from ignorance. Because when we're born, we're ignorant. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَخْرُجُكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُم لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. You come out from your mother's womb, you know nothing. So we're always ignorant when we first brought to this world. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam is what leads us to religion and Islam and knowledge and takes us out from what? Being ignorant. The second thing, those who are في حيرة الضلالة, they are misguided and they're in confusion. And this is when you read again in the visitation for Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Eid, it says حتى استنقذ عبادك من الجهالة وحيرة الضلالة. That means he rescued your servants from being ignorant and the confusion of being misguided. Today, you will see people who they're always, misguided, but they don't know. They're in confusion. Am I misguided or am I in the right path? Who's the one who takes them out from this? Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I'll give you an example. If you've read a book by Sheikh Tijani, and then I was guided, ثم اهتديت, or if you've ever heard from his inspirations, and this shows you that what inspired him was Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this proves to you that this sentence in the visitation of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, said by our Imams, is accurate. That Imam Hussein alayhi salam is the one who takes the servants of Allah out from ignorance and he guides those who are in confusion of misguidance. Shaykh Tijani, he himself, he went through every sect of religion of Islam, from the non-Shias. And every time, he had a long story short, every time he would have questions that no one would answer him. And he was confused and he was misguided. One day he went to Iraq. He had a friend who was Shi'i and he was in Iraq. So his friend told him, they were in Baghdad. His friend told him, who do you want to visit? He says, I want to visit, Abdul Qadir Gilani. He said, okay, go. He took him to that place. He's like, I was proud. I'm visiting the scholar. I went there. They threw 2 pieces of candy. I took 2. I ate one. I put one in my pocket for barakah. And I was going to go back home and tell my family that I went and I visited this great scholar of mine. He was confused and he was misguided. Then his friend told him, come, let's go visit Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam. He says, I went, I walked. He's my friend. He was open-minded man. He said, when I saw the golden shrine of the Imam, I was like, this is the Shi'as, that they make golden shrines and for them is haram. And he said, I saw thousands of people entering the shrine, crying. I would look at them and I'd say, could all these tears be sincere? How could they cry? Who is this man? Anyways, long story short, he had a conversation with his friend. He said, my heart was locked. It wasn't opened. I couldn't accept that, Imam al-Kadhim. My heart was locked. There was no light and nur in my heart. He said, I went to Najaf. I visited Imam Ali alayhi salam. Likewise, I was confused. My heart was locked. I was looking at the people in that, no, this is not the right path. You guys are all ignorant. He was in confusion of being misguided, but he didn't know. Then he said, when I went to Karbala, everything was different. Go back to the visitation. لِيَسْتَنْقَذَ عِبَادَكَ مِنَ الْجَهَالَةِ, to rescue your servant from ignorance. وَحَيْرَةَ الضَّلَالَةِ, the confusion of being misguided. He said, I went to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I saw people crying. I felt different, he said. I felt this different feeling than when I was Imam Ali, when I was Imam al-Kadhim. But my heart, he says, was still locked. I couldn't accept it. But then when I went outside, my friend was visiting in the shrine of Imam Hussein. I went outside the sahan, the shrine, and there was a clergy who was preaching, and he was saying that Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, and it was a coincidence that he was saying to Imam Hussein, forgive me. And he said, I was listening to the story of Al-Hurr, and I said, I always asked the non-Shi'as about Imam Hassan and Hussein. What's their history? The grandsons of Rasulullah. They would say, some people tell him Imam Hassan and Hussein died when they were young kids and they had no history. Some people would say that they had no history. He said, when I heard from the Shias, I heard that Imam Hussein had a mission. He had a plan. And he even forgave Hurr. He said, I fell to the ground and I fainted and I said to Allah, oh Allah, if this Imam has a blessings to you, then send blessings to him and guide me. He said, when I fainted, my friend came and said, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. And then I got up and he said, Thumma ihtadayt. And then I was guided. I went and I researched. He said, this was the beginning of me researching the true path. Imam Hussein alayhi salam took him out from this confusion and being misguided. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he takes us out from this confusion of this world and being misguided. You have new technology, new knowledge. You're forced to study some education that you do not accept. Things promoting against Islam, things promoting against humanity, being enslaved, modern slavery. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he takes us out from this. Especially when we gather in these nights of Muharram and we re-listen to all the inspirations of him in Karbala. It takes us out from being misguided. It gives us knowledge of how to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how to have dignity, how to live in life with humanity. And if not, death is honorable for you. It's a lot more worth than living life with being slaves and inhumanity. And Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he takes everyone out from this confusion of misguided. People like Sheikh Tijani and his story, very great story, that it makes you cry because you realize how Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he's that door for everyone. And Allah gave this to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This is one of the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Imam Hussein has sacrificed everything. I'm going to give that to him. That anyone who's in confusion of being misguided will be guided from him. Anyone who's ignorant will seek knowledge. And this is why we seek knowledge in the month of Muharram. No matter how much we study, no matter how many narrations we memorize, how many verses from the Holy Quran we've memorized, Imam Hussein, he's the spoken Quran. He's the Quran al-Natiq. So he inspires everyone.
It's very true. He has rescued us from ignorance. He has rescued us from our own selves. And he is that shining light of guidance, that beacon of light, that ark of salvation, where you hold on to, even when you're going through your own tests in life, and you hold on to Imam Hussein, whether it's the good times or the bad times. Even if we are having a wedding, we always remember Imam Hussein. In the happy times, we remember him. In the sad times, we remember him. And he is that light where you hold on to him, and everything and anything that you are going through in your life, on your daily basis, through your children. We all have tests with our children, with our marriages, with our work, with our business, financially. But we hold on to that light of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, which is why it's so important to continue the majalises of Imam Hussein even after Muharram has finished, even after Safar has finished. We do majalises of Imam Hussein continuously through the year, because he is that shining light of guidance, that ark of salvation, like our beloved Prophet has said. And he is the one that has rescued us 1400 years ago and now as well. And Imam Sajjad alayhi salam has said, surely I have never brought to mind the martyrdom of the children of Fatima salamullahi alayha, except that I have been choked with tears due to it. And in this month, we continue to remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And like I said, in every month, We teach our children from a young age, because they are the next generation which will uphold that majalis of Imam Hussein. We engage them in latmiya, we engage them in matam, we take them for ziyarah. In this holy month, we teach them the importance of Imam Hussein, how he saved us from the tyrant, the oppression, but how he saved from ourselves as well, how he saved us from our inner nafs and our inner soul. And it's very important to continue to remember this, not just in this month, but beyond as well. We have the bigger jihad, which is the jihad of our own nafs and our own soul as well. Which brings me very nicely to my next question, dear sister. How can we in this holy month better ourselves, to improve ourselves in order to gain closeness to Imam Hussein and the holy Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam?
You know, it's very important to remind ourselves in this month of Muharram that we want to hop on to the caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Whether we're men or female, you know, the men hop on with the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's caravan, and with the women, the wives of Al-Muhammad, and the family of Al-Muhammad. If you realize the case of Imam Hussein alayhi salam's case, the file has not been closed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept it open for a reason. That till today, even those who want to be his companions and those who want to be with him, they are able to hop on this caravan in this lifetime. And those who want to remain and become his enemies and promote against his imamah and against his status and against his ziyarah and against his position that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him, they are able to also join Yazid ibn Muawiyah and the army of Amr ibn Sa'd. And this is something that Allah gave Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that, you know, even after your martyrdom, your case is not closed. It's open. It's going to remain open, so that those who never had the chance to hop on this caravan, to hop on. You know, and this is why we say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum fanafuza fawzan azima. I wish to be with you. I wish I was with you. And you know, Imam Rida alayhi salam, he tells Rayyan ibn Shabib, he tells him, Ibn Shabib, if you want to be with Imam Hussein's companions, say to Imam al-Hussein, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum. Tell him that I wish I was with you. And then he said to him, don't say it from your tongue, say it from your heart. Because we all say it every day in the day of Muharram, you know, on the day of Ashura, on the days of Safar. We say, Ya laytani kuntu ma'akum, I wish I was with you. But do we say it from our tongue, or do we say it from our heart? It has to come from our soul. Especially when we visit Imam Hussein alayhi salam and we tell him, I wish I was with you. We need to show him victory. We need to show him that we really wish that we were with you. So how can we show Imam Hussein alayhi salam that we wish to be with him, so that we could be his companions and we can be like his companions and part of his companions and have the same status as his companions had on the day of Ashura? We are likewise able to. One, we need to show him victory, how his companions showed him victory. They left everything behind. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn, he had wealth and he had a business and he had a job and he had a wife. When he came back to the tent, he told his wife, I'm divorcing you. And the wealth is yours and the world is yours and the kids are yours and everything is yours. She said to him, she didn't even want the world. She didn't want it. She left it behind. She told him, I don't even want this money and wealth. Why are you divorcing me? Take me with you. I want to be with the ladies of Al-Muhammad. I want to sacrifice myself with the women, with the ladies. And this shows you that she herself did not want the materialistic world as well. All the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they did not want the materialistics of this world as well. They left it behind. This is something we need to keep in our mind. We are in an era where everything is promoting wealth and money and luxury and life and the best life. To be his companions, it should not matter to us. This world will remain and we will exit from it and take nothing but what we want to be with Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And sometimes wealth is so filthy that it takes us out from religion, and it puts us in haram, and it takes us out from being with the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this is something we need to keep in our mind as well. To always keep in mind that never hold on to the materialistics of this world. Because once you do, you're out from that caravan. We want to leave everything and بَذَلَ مُهْجَتَهُ. Basically, when you read Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he never said when he left, he said, مَنْ كَانَ بَاذِلًا فِينَا مُهْجَتَهُ. Badilan is basically sacrificing, giving, cheapless, no price, no value, has no value. Muhja is damul qalb, the blood of the heart. Imam Hussein says, he who wants to give and devote the blood of the heart cheaply. For example, you say, Fulan badala malah. Someone badal, gave, spended his money, What does that mean? Badal. Basically, that money had no value. Have you seen people like that? Today, they'll buy something and it has no value. The money to them has no value. They're willing to spend all their wealth in one day and then sit for like the rest of the month having nothing. And you're like, this person spend their money, but that money had no value to them. It had no meaning to them. Even if they get wealth again, they spend it all. Has no meaning. Imam here, he says, "Man kana badilan." If you would want to give that blood of your heart to sacrifice it cheaply, it has no meaning to you. It's not worth anything to you. And then the Imam doesn't say, "Man kana badilan fillah." If you want to devote your blood of your heart for Allah. Why didn't he say for Allah? Why did he say fina, in us, Ahlul Bayt? Why? Because the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad was also saying that we are here and gathered 75,000, 35,000, depending on the narration, to spread the blood of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to get closer to Allah. So if Imam Hussein was to say to Allah, he who wants to devote his blood, the muhjah of his heart for Allah, and they are also claiming that they're here to spread the blood of Hussein for Allah, there will be confusion. People will be confused. So who's coming for Allah, right? Imam Hussein made it clear that he who wants to give cheaply that blood of their heart, their soul, the blood of the heart cheaply, sacrifice it so that you can meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, come with me. Imam Hussein showed them and he made it clear that I am the Quran, an-natiq, the spoken Quran. I am the grandson of Rasulullah. You want to get closer to Allah? Sacrifice the blood of your heart for me. And this is what the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam did. They sacrificed cheaply. They knew that there was no ajr dunyawi. There's nothing that they're going to take deeds from this dunya. Because the dunya was gone. They're going to be martyred. They're going to be killed. They left everything behind. Their money, their wealth, their wives, their children, everything behind them. For whom? To sacrifice their blood of the heart for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And this is something we need to do as well. To sacrifice our time, our knowledge, our life to present to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to give to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Especially in the month of Muharram, we need to have a notebook that we would sit down and jot down notes. What do we need to improve ourselves to be able to give Imam Hussein victory from our salah, from our morals, from our ethics, from our akhlaq, from, showing humanity, generosity, not gossiping, not everything that Imam Hussein has taught us that we learn in these holy nights. We need to make sure that this has made us change. We don't need to stay the same way we are. After 30 years and 40 years, you see people sometimes, they're the same people. When will you change? If you spend 30 years of your life being the same person, 40 years, 50 years, when is it the time to change? This is the time to say that we must write down what we need to change in order to hop on this caravan, in order to give victory to Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein, he sacrificed the blood of his heart, his muhjah, for Allah to rescue us from ignorance. Are you still ignorant? Then you need to be guided about Islam, the knowledge of Ahlul Bayt. You need to be guided. Are you in confusion and being misguided? Then this is the path of Imam Hussein. Research about him, learn the ma'rifah, learn what he stood for, so that this blood of his heart does not go like this. It's not thrown and spread on the land of Karbala and you just listen. And because you'll be like the people who were like Yazid ibn Muawiyah, they saw the blood of his heart spread on the ground. It didn't matter to them. But for us, it matters. We need to show it. And this is the only way we could, in order for us to hop on this caravan of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and to give him victory, so that we will be those who are rescuing him and giving him victory in this time.
Like you said, the case or the book or the story of Imam Hussein alayhi salam will never be closed. It's there through generation and generation until the time of our awaited Savior, Imam Mahdi Ajalallahu Ta'ala Faraj Sharif, when he reappears to seek a vengeance on the pure blood of Imam Hussein that was spilt. And it is why in this holy month we keep on reviving the message of Imam Hussein, and not just in this holy month, like I said, beyond the nights of Muharram and Safar, we continue to speak about Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And in Ziyarat al-Ashra, which we read very often and which we should read very often, we say how, had we been there, we would have sacrificed our lives for you. Had we been there, we sacrificed our lives, our children's lives, our parents' lives, just for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And there's a beautiful narration by Imam Baqir, our holy fifth Imam alayhi salam, who said that when Imam Ali alayhi salam happened to be passing the land of Karbala with his two companions, his eyes filled with tears as he said, "This is the resting place of the animals, and this is where their luggage shall be laid down. and it is here that the pure blood shall be shed. Blessed are you, O earth, that the blood of the beloved shall be spilled on you. And just like Imam Hussein alayhi salam 1400 years ago cried out, Hal min nasirin yansurna, is there anyone to assist us? 1400 years on, it is us who say to Imam, Labbaika ya Hussein. It is us that say to Imam that we are here to assist you. O Imam, we have not forgotten you. O Imam, everything that you sacrificed, everything that you did for us, for our children, for our loved ones, for the whole of humanity, for us to be rescued from our own ignorance, for us to be rescued from our own shaitan, our own soul. So we cry to Imam Hussein, we are here with you, and we want to revive your message year after year after year. And as we come to the end of our episode, we look upon what advice we can give to those dear viewers who are holding on to that ark of salvation that is Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to the beacon of light, how our beloved Prophet Muhammad has said, Hussein is from me and I am from Hussein. What last few words of advice can you give to our dear viewers?
You know, it's important to present to Imam Hussein, now that we knew why Imam Hussein alayhi salam and what he stood for, humanity. Then we knew that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he sacrificed the muhjah, his muhjah, to save us and to rescue us from ignorance and being confused and misguided. Now it's our responsibility to understand that we must present to him back and give him back. So we took from him. Now our turn is to give back. Because as I said, as human beings, it's always important, once you take, you have to give back. Never take and not give back. Always, once you receive, you give back something. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam has given us the blood of his heart, the muhjah of his. What are we going to present for him? And once we present for him in the month of Muharram, the month of Safar, and every year and every day, we must give the best quality. So for example, if you're cooking biryani, you need to use the best quality of rice. Don't search for the cheap quality of rice, because you're not giving it just to his servants. This is for Imam Hussein. You're serving him. So what kind of quality do you want to get? You want to serve tea, for example. Get the best quality of tea. That's important. I'll give you a narration from one of our great scholars. And this narration, his story basically, not a narration, it shows you that he emphasized on, even if you don't have nothing to give Imam Hussein alayhi salam and to present to him, always present the best. Never present something that's the cheapest and the weakest and not the good quality. You know, if you look at Karbala today, Imam Hussein's shrine, around it is the Sahan. That area, there were homes built. And the people who serve Imam Hussein in the Rawda al-Husayniyya, they came, they knocked the doors around those homes. So that place that you walk around today where there's carpets and, you know, there's rooms around, these rooms were homes, people's homes. And they wanted to make it, the shrine, very big so people can come and, you know, the place will be like wide and people can fit in it. So they came, they knocked the door to everybody. Here's a paper, write down how much you want to sell your house and we're willing to pay. And sign. They went to everybody and everyone signed. Any number you want, just put a number. We'll buy it. We need this land. We're going to demolish it and it's ours. And you go buy somewhere else. So people would put out any price they want, any price they'd wish. They came to the scholar. He said to them, I don't want to put a price. I'll think about it. Sign. He said, come back to me later. They're like, okay. At the end of the day, you're going to sell it because everyone's going to sell their land and we're going to demolish it. So you can't remain here, right? He said, okay. His house was moldy, rusty, no electricity. The pipes of the water were broken. It was a very old house and he couldn't afford to fix this house. So he went, he got a plumber, he fixed electricity, he fixed it, took out the mold, he renovated it, he cleaned it, no mold, no dust, no nothing. People, neighbors are always like that. Look at him. He's fixing his house. He wants to give a very high price. They gossiped about him and gossiped about him. He's trying to renovate his house. He who had nothing and he never thought of renovating his house. Now he's renovating it. I wonder what price he's going to put. Now, days passed by. Everyone sold their house and he's renovating his house and he fixed it and it's clean and it's beautiful. They came and they said, you know, sign and give us a price. We don't care that you renovated it. We need a price. He said, I'm not selling it. They said, what do you mean you're not selling it? You said, well, you'll think of a price and you'll sell it and you'll sign. He said, I'll sign, and he signed. But I'm not selling it to Imam Hussein. I'm going to gift it to him. But I saw to myself that I have nothing and I own nothing in this world but this house. And I did not want to give it to Imam Hussein and gift it to him while it's moldy and rusty and had no electricity and had no water. The pipes were broken, and I spent whatever wealth I had to fix it, to gift it to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And if today you enter the shrine, you will see a room where there's scholars buried there. That was the house. When you want to gift to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, give the best quality, because he gave that muhjah, that blood of his heart. You know, no matter how much we give him, it's not enough. So always when you serve, spend your life and serve Imam Hussein alayhi salam, give the best quality, the best thing, anything, that is always the best quality.
You know, that's a beautiful narration, a beautiful story that you've told us. And it just reminds me that when we are in the land of Karbala, you never go hungry. You are never short of shelter. When we are walking to Imam during the days of Arba'een, the lines, the rows are full of food, of water, of comfort for all the Zawar who are walking to Imam Hussein. And this is because of the love and the generosity of the people there that they have for Imam Hussein alayhi salam. And there's a beautiful narration by Imam Raza, our holy 8th Imam alayhi salam, who has said, whoever makes a pilgrimage to the holy shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam near the Euphrates River, it is as if he has visited God on his holy throne. And inshallah, we use this month as an inspiration. We take our children for ziyarah, and may the visitation and the holy ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam never be taken away from us. May we always be blessed to go for his ziyarah. May we always be blessed to hold majalises in our homes. And may we have the inspiration to train our children to be the ones who are the next generation to hold the majalises. Inshallah, whatever little we do in this month is accepted, and inshallah, our homes and our lives and that of our children are full of rahmah and barakah. And may we use this month to grow closer to the Ahlul Bayt, especially to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and to look upon us, to work upon us, to see what it is that we need to improve. We all have flaws. None of us are perfect. There is always something, and when we speak, I speak for myself first. We look upon the flaws that we have within us to improve ourselves and to do that greater jihad, which is the jihad of the nafs. Thank you, dear sister, for joining us. It's always a pleasure to be on set with you, and we always learn so much from you. So thank you so much once again for joining us. Thank you, dear viewers at home, for joining us. Inshallah, we pray for the shifa of all the marid around the world, and we pray for the eternal safety and quick reappearance of our beloved Imam Zamana alayhi salam. Until next time, dear viewers, thank you for watching. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.